Okay, let's talk capitalism. At its core, capitalism is a system designed to convert labor, which in Marxist terms is the manifestation of a worker's life, into a commodity. That commodity then has an exchange value or worth attached to it where it can be bought or sold on a market. I'm no expert on Marx, but my understanding of his theory, and the most important takeaway for this episode, is this. The result of capitalism is that a small section of society, capitalists, receives great benefits through the exploitation of labor, which we now know as lifetime spent. One of the key concepts of Marxism is this concept of alienation. Because workers are spending labor, aka their lives, doing something that has a subjective value defined by capitalism attached to it, they end up alienated from themselves. A button pusher in a factory doesn't understand the value of his button pushing, and therefore must partition his or her life into sections: work time and lifetime. This creates a lot of psychic distress for the worker, compounded by the fact that capitalism loves automation. More automation equals less workers, and therefore more capital for those running things. Meanwhile, workers are becoming more and more alienated from themselves. Take Taco Bell, for instance. A Crunchwrap Supreme was not produced by skilled workers. Taco Bell has automated the skilled work required to make this thing into a machine that can be operated by unskilled workers for low wages. It's one of the reasons why working fast food feels so dehumanizing. If you've ever had the pleasure of working at one of these places, it's not great. My experience in the years I spent working fast food in these sort of automated spaces was filled with like a nagging thought. I am not important, I am a cog in a machine, and I could be replaced at any time. And workers in these places are replaced. It happens all the time, and it's a bummer. Now, does this have anything to do with video games? Before we get to that, I want to talk briefly about Matthew Crawford's book, The World Beyond Your Head, on becoming an individual in an age of distraction. So Crawford's criticism is with a sort of war on our attention, or our attentional spaces as he calls them. I liked how the Chicago Tribune put it in the review, as he has problems with the, quote, colonization of the mind. Crawford's claim is that this isn't a new thing, it's rather something that dates all the way back to the Enlightenment, a claim which I am not really qualified to approve or disprove. He engages with more philosophers than you can shake a stick at, from Soren Kierkegaard and Immanuel Kant to Hannah Arendt. But his ultimate beef is, I think, shared with Marx's critique, with a little bit of an upgrade. Our hyper-digitized and automated world affects everything from our personal relationships to basket weaving, and it's alienating us from our minds. And there are forces like video poker that are designed to control and mess with our brains. If you want to know more about this, Google "playing to extinction" and you'll see what I'm talking about. So what's Crawford's solution for all this? Well, for him, finding things that can immerse us fully, that require our attention and focus to participate with them, is one option. He's a motorcyclist and a motorcycle mechanic, and many of his examples revolve around this. Don't pay attention on a motorcycle? Well, you're gonna crash and die. He encourages readers to find things that envelop them. I generally think his recommendation is a good one, though I don't think it's expansive enough. Usually it's like limited to more crafty things. But yes, anything that is a productive use of life, like carpentry, gardening, cooking, is a powerful thing. But I would move that we become more discerning about the activities with which we choose to engage. And now we arrive at video games. As a lifelong lover of games, I'm the first person to come to their defense. But it would be naive to assume that the lessons the video gambling industry has learned do not apply to other games as well. Freemium games and additional paid content that encourage gamers to continue to play with the help of small financial incentives that automate don't seem that terrible, but what they are doing is replacing skill with capital. In my view, games have become easier and easier with each successive generation of franchise or console or technology upgrade. For example, most recently I finished Titanfall 2, which, spoiler alert, features a last section of the game where you get a gun that automatically shoots all the bad guys. Alright, I know what you're thinking. It's trivial, right? Why complain about the difficulty of games? Aren't they just this thing we do for fun? They're kind of dumb. I think the soaring rise of esports begs to differ. People like competition. Human beings don't want easy. Easy gets boring real fast. We want stuff that's hard. We want stuff that requires us to work. Why? Because that's our life force. That's what compels us to innovate, to create new things, to try new stuff, and to not be so damn afraid of failure. Now, I think there's lots of games that fit the bill for this, but My favorite right now is the Dark Souls series. It's got a grim, dark sort of setting with all sorts of great design and art for those of you who are into, gothic stuff. But where it really shines is this game of skill. See, the game requires you to study it very carefully. The enemies that you face, the environments that you traverse, you have to move through them carefully and attentively, otherwise you'll lose. You can't do anything else while you're playing this game, and I can only play it in 20-minute increments due to the high degree of difficulty. I've studied every enemy, and I've memorized their patterns so I can beat them. But I still lose because I'm not patient enough, I'm not focused enough, I get distracted and I frustrate easily. And that's the power of games like this. They have something to teach us about skill and resilience and why those things are able to fill the gaping pit we all sometimes experience. And with that fun note, I'll see you all next time.